考公。上岸。
If you have some young friends from mainland China, you must heard of them having talking about the above words. But what are they talking about? And what do the word mean? In 2024, a record of 3.4 million young Chinese flocked to the civil service exam, competing for 39,000 vacancies. 86 candidates for one position at average. So what exactly is this civil service exam, and why is it so attractive to young Chinese? Known as Gaokao in China, its official name is actually the State Officer Recruitment Exam. And the recruitment is not only for the central government, but includes all the governments from central to local. Applicants will first take a multiple choices test assessing their general knowledge and reasoning skills, and then compose an essay on a policy-related issue. Usually, the top 3 highest scoring applicants for each position will be automatically be selected for a job interview, and the organizers will have the ultimate call. The test questions are variegated. For example, one student finds out that someone is disclosing important economic information online, and he immediately reports to a relevant enforcement department. Question: this student has implemented, take the right answer, his obligation to safeguard state security, his obligation to safeguard state unity, his obligation to safeguard national security, and D, his obligation to safeguard state honor. All right, the answer is probably A. Math subject. I'll show you how crazy Chinese math could be. A piece of cloth can make 12 children's clothes and 9 adults' clothes. Given making 3 adults will need 6 meters long than 2 children's. How long in total is this clothes of? And don't ask me, I don't know the answer either. But most test questions are in a general sense. It evaluates the breadth of a knowledge rather than a depth. Only some special positions such as enforcement department or finance sections will differ in emphasis. Of course, there are way more normal questions than the above, and the argumentation essay will test the applicant's ability in a way of assessing a research proposal, which accounts for proportional score of the total exam. The exam will simultaneously take place in 237 cities across the country on a Sunday, and anyone between the ages of 18 and 35 with a college-level degree and no criminal record can apply. It kind of reminds me of another national exam in China, the Tertiary Education Entry Exam, as known as Gaokao. This exam is the most determinant one to most Chinese students in a lifetime, because it's the fairest chance for most educated people to change his or her life in a switch, regardless of what kind of family he or she is born from. So when it comes to this civil service exam, I'm convinced that many graduates believe that this is a second chance they can equally compete for a job position, like what they do with Gaokao. There will be least bias in this chance because the first screen will just be the scores, while in many other job interview occasions, the applicants will be evaluated to their genders, looks, sometimes family conditions, let alone some sub-rules you never know. Big chances you fight through all your way to the position and find out that your peer turns out to be the son of the boss. However, is this civil service exam truly fair? Let's put aside this question. The second reason for many young Chinese to go for this exam is security, or a sense of security of living. The aftermath of COVID-19 is far-reaching. Albeit the massive domestic market, China cannot escape a recession at any rate, causing many international and private companies to either exit the market or close down. What's worsening is that even the robust manufacturing in China is witnessing a shrinking. COVID is just a trigger, The deeper reason is the aging problem. Manufacturing used to depend proportionally on rural laborers who have stepped into their 50s or 60s, and their children, most of whom gained their college degrees from big cities, will now return or take over their father's job. Structural dilemma led to one another. The unemployment rate among the young labor force aged between 19 to 29 was once reported over 40%. Although employment in China's civil service rarely pay as well as those comparable private sector, they do have other benefits. For example, they usually have access to better medical insurance, a preferential pension plan, consistent bonus payouts, and a lifetime security in employment. The last reason may sound unfamiliar from you from a different cultural background. Take a guess from applicants from which province are most enthusiastic about this civil service exam. It's this province, Shandong, which is also the hometown of Confucius. Confucianism emphasizes social order of occupations, ranking from gentry scholars, peasant farmers, artisans and craftsmen, and then merchants and traders. Working for the government is considered the same ranking as the gentry scholars and was a popular career option for those with higher social status. Bureaucratism, although publicly criticized, is still an embodiment of the civil service system and enable a superiority over all walks of life. For example, Chinese people favor round table banquet. In the West, round table usually means a conversation without a dominant role. But in China, there is still a host seat at a round table, and this seat is usually reserved for someone from officialdom. If you wonder how to distinguish this host seat out of a round table, leave a comment below and I'll give you the answer. Anyway, this tenacious cultural mindset of prioritizing officialdom over any other class is enhanced ever since the presidency of Xi Jinping, who has dedicated more resources to the public sector and state-owned enterprises and directed a number of mergers between the public and private sections, enhancing the number of employees and the influences of public sector within the Chinese market. All factors together explain why young Chinese think this civil service exam as a best opportunity to an ideal career life. Now back to the question of whether it is a true fair play. Of course, there is no absolute fairness everywhere in this world, but this exam system makes it comparatively fair with a traceable record of how an applicant can qualify the position. This is important in a society where more and more information are publicly accessible, thanks to the internet. Lastly, but not least, is this a good phenomenon? Or let's put it this way, how will it affect China? Small government is said to be a theory and a principle to economic development, let alone a government always lives on taxation. Secondly, when talents flood into the service sections, what's left to those areas requiring expertise? Obviously, there is no end to this discussion so far.